Welcome to episode 1 of Voicing the Silence, a mini series from the Clever Angle podcast. I'm your host, Tevin McGee, and today we're going to be discussing interracial relationships. Just a few of my goals for people that are listening to this mini series. I just hope that you gain empathy and understanding from your brothers and sisters of color, and just able to look at things from a different perspective. So, here's the show. Welcome to the Clever Angle mini series, Voicing the Silence. Today, my guest is one of my good friends, Jalynn Mitchell. I've been knowing Jalynn for about 15, 16 years now. And we're going to be talking about interracial relationships. Jay, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just trying to stay sane and keep the family safe in this crazy climate that we're in today.
Yeah, man. So, how is the family?
Family's good. Family's good. I was trying to keep my wife from going crazy. She has been begging me to do different things and get out of the house. We've been trying to, my oldest son now is at the age where he should be playing summer baseball. So we're not getting a chance to do that, and so just trying to balance that, and just trying to find creative ways to stay busy.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, we'll briefly touch on this. I'm sure we could talk about it for an hour or 2 hours, knowing us. But what do you think about like the current state that America is in right now?
It's I think it's different from being a black man. It's not anything new to us.
Yeah,
We've known this has been going on. We've talked about it. We felt it. We've lived it. But now it's refreshing to see it come to the light. It's unfortunate the circumstances that it took for us to get here. But the fact that this dialogue is starting, and eyes are opening to things that we've been talking about amongst ourselves for the longest time. White people are starting to get in on those conversations. So as sad as the situation is, I think this is needed before things can really start to improve and progress.
yeah, man. I saw a quote. It was like, "This isn't new. It's just being filmed now." So
Yeah.
people are getting to see, what's been going on this whole time. And honestly, my personal opinion, I'm sad, man. Like, I was talking to my wife earlier, and bro, I've just been in a borderline state of depression just seeing some of the stuff on social media of the people that I use. It really makes me rethink the word friend. You have a lot of friends on Facebook, and you think you know a lot of people, and then like something like this happens, and then some of these people's true colors start to come out. I've seen multiple posts about like, you know, I don't know why people are saying that white people are the only racist people. I've known black people to be the most. I mean, it's just taking it's
Yeah.
just taking the focus off what this whole issue is about. Police brutality. This man was wrongfully murdered, and
Hmm.
it's just sad, man. I feel for a lot of these people out here, and it's unfortunate because I'm losing relationships with people that I thought were stronger than race.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, I know probably you're probably in the same situation as me. You're starting to get these random messages from everyone, all of your white friends uh, or family members or whatever it may be, just saying how they're thinking about you and how they're with us in this time. And I read those and I'm like, those they make me feel good. I appreciate it, but it's like, you know those aren't the people that I want those messages from. It's like, I know where you stand. I like the fact you don't have to reach out to me to confirm that you're not a racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It,
Yeah.
it's funny that you said that because my pastor actually reached out to me directly. I had like a mini episode about this. It was about 22 minutes long, and I spoke about an instance that happened in my church with one of our mutual friends that we know came to church with me and didn't have the greatest experience that I always have when I go. So it made me feel good that he reached out to me directly, and I never questioned if the church was behind me or not, but it was just good to get that message. But yeah, man, but some of these other people, it's just I don't know. I just I'm honestly just overwhelmed by the whole situation. We're still currently going through a pandemic that's affected the whole world, and this is just a kickstarter of things that are. I don't see where any of this ends.
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard too, man. Because obviously, well, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that, uh, you know, this world, the way we're living in it, where desegregation was only 60, 70 years ago.
Yeah,
So it's like, this is still fairly new. Like the times where, black people couldn't vote or didn't have, basic civil rights, that was some of our parents. Like some of
yeah.
our parents lived through that. And so, nobody knows, where this will go or where it'll end. All we can do is just to continue to try to lead that change, lead that charge and for change.
Yeah, and I just encourage anyone who's listening to this. This is not a social media trend. We are advocating for change. I want to get this out so you guys can really understand what we go through as black men and women on a daily basis, and just so you can kind of see it through our eyes just a little bit. So. Um, we're talking about interracial relationships. So obviously we'll talk about dating, we'll talk about marriage, and we'll just talk about just our friendships growing up with people. I shared a little bit on my last episode, but yeah, man, can you just take us through what it was like growing up in the Northeast Arkansas area for you as a kid?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up, and for people that aren't that's not familiar with the Jonesboro infrastructure, so there are four elementary schools in the Jonesboro public school system. There was South School, there was Philadelphia, West School, and Hillcrest. So I went to South School, which was the predominantly white elementary school. So it was in a better part of town. Um, it was almost had like a private school feel to it. So I've always had a lot of white friends, and I never really thought twice about it. My parents both grew up in rural areas. My mom's from Martree, and my dad's from Truman. My dad actually grew up on a plantation. So whenever I would go to family events, that's whenever I would be around black people. And so, those were my times to kind of learn about, more about where they grew up. And um, I don't want to say that I guess, I mean, in a way, I was just more fortunate to kind of grow up in that middle class to where I really wasn't exposed to that a whole lot, just on holidays and, like I said, family gatherings. So um, my white friends never really made me feel any different. Um, I really didn't really experience any type of racism as a kid, which I count my lucky stars that's the case, and I pray every day that my kids never experience that. So I'm one of the ones that was very fortunate. I didn't experience that until later on in life, around high school.
Yeah, so we met in high school. When I was going to Nettleton, it was predominantly white. So from kindergarten through junior high, pretty much, there was like a handful of black kids at the school. When we got to high school, and that's when you came over as well, it started to get a little bit more diverse. So, I mean, I can speak a little bit to my experience, but what was your experience like in high school, having like a little bit more diverse crowd that you were used to?
Yeah, so as you know, I started dating my first white girl in high school, and that's kind of where my eyes got open to, like, man, this is real. Racism still exists. So,
Yeah, so
uh,
I want to stop you there. You said you dated your first white girl, so up until this point, you had just dated black girls, or
yes.
okay,
So I had dated a black girl in junior high, and actually first part of my 10th grade year at Nettleton, and then we broke up, and then later on that year, is whenever I started to date, the white girl.
Did you ever see it as like you're stepping out of your comfort zone, or this is awkward, or was it just like a person that you saw and you were like, okay, we're compatible, we vibe with each other, let's date?
So it's a little bit of both. So it was kind of just a connection where it was a friendship, and it was apparent that we were attracted to each other. She had never dated a black guy, I had never dated a white girl. So obviously there's dealing with that and kind of trying to figure out, like, man, is this okay? Am I, in a sense, am I less of a black person for dating a white girl? At the time I'm 14, 15 years old. So all of these things are going through my head, which, now that we're older and more mature, which seems crazy, but that was the reality of it.
Yeah, so would you say, did your mom ever like give you any kind of preferences towards which race that she would want you to end up with, or did she just kind of let you make your own way?
There's no doubt about it that she would have rather me date a black girl. And even whenever I started or introduced her to the fact that I was interested in white girls, it was one of those kind of like, are you sure? Like, do you know what comes with that? Like, is her family okay with that? And at the time, I had never met her family, didn't know anything about her family. And she's like, well, you just be careful. That was what she always said to me: be careful.
That's
And
crazy, man.
yeah, yeah, being 15 years old, you're like, what? You don't really know what that means. So I was like, okay, I will, and that was that.
Yeah, I mean, you know my parents, and I don't ever remember experiencing that. My parents really didn't have too many conversations with me about race, I guess you would say, and definitely not that many about dating. So it was, I guess, easier for me. Like when I got with Destiny, there really wasn't even a talk about that. So it's interesting that Miss Mary had that talk with you at 15.
Yeah, yeah, and it's probably because she experienced a lot of it. Like I said, coming from Martree, which is a predominantly black town, then moving to Jonesboro and having to adjust. I'm sure she was speaking to me from experience.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, continue to go through that relationship, and then we'll talk a little bit about the culture of how that relationship was perceived in high school. Because I say this all the time, it was still pretty taboo at Nettleton. In 2007, 2008, when we were in 10th and 11th grade, to be in an interracial relationship. So I mean, we've been out of high school, a lot of years now. I don't really want to say the number, but but I remember that as being my first memory of an interracial couple in high school.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was definitely, it was new to me. It was new for her, and like you said, I didn't know, I didn't have anyone that I could talk to about it that had ever been through it. So yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. It was absolutely taboo, and it kind of became more, 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 more normal and typical to see as we got older.
Yeah. So would you say you were perceived differently by your peers for dating outside your race?
Some, yes. I would say definitely black girls. They did not like it. And still to this day, me and Allison, my wife now, we joke all the time. It's like we get funny looks from two different categories of people. It's usually either older white men or black women. And she never noticed it at first. I always did, because black women always would look at me like a little funny, like, like, like this. He's with a white girl. He's one of those type of black dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's just crazy that you just get like these labels put on you for who you like. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because
yeah.
it's like, this is the person I've chosen to be with. It's not any of your business. You don't know me, so why are you putting these notions on me without taking the time to that's your wife now. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
y'all are still getting looks like that. But yeah, continue with your
Yeah.
story.
Okay, so this is 10th grade. We let it know we were attracted to each other. We start to date kind of in secret, um, just because, like I said, we didn't know what was to come of making it public. So once it became public, man, I mean, her parents found out. They basically disowned her.
What do you mean?
They
What do you mean?
threatened.
What do you mean? Basically, this like this is a 15-year-old girl. So what did that look like?
Okay, so I'll tell you a couple of stories. So, the first story, they took her phone away, took away all of her electronics, so we couldn't communicate. So I ended up buying her. I had a job at the time. Bought her a cell phone, and back then you could buy the little cards with minutes and text messages on it.
Yeah.
So every month I would go and buy her one of those cards, fill it up the phone with minutes and text messages, and that's how we would communicate. That's kind of how she got her parents off her back the first time, and they told her that me and her, we were over, we weren't a thing anymore. And so again, we had to go back into secrecy. Well, her mom ended up finding the cell phone in her backpack. I still remember this like it was yesterday. We were at one of her volleyball games. I'm looking across the stands. Her phone is in her backpack. I'm looking across the stands. I see her mom go and start looking through her backpack. I think was you were beside me, weren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I was there.
Yeah, yeah. And I told you, like, she's about to find the phone. She's about to find the phone. And sure enough, she found it and she was just starting to look at it. And I saw her face. She was on the bench at the time. She was looking up. She saw it and she just got pale. And I mean, from that point on, they they threatened to pull her out of school. They threatened to kick her out of the house. It was a time where I thought she was going to have to move in with us because at this time she had met my mom. My mom liked her. She was very aware of the situation. And like I said, whenever they were threatening to kick her out of the house, I was like, Mom, this is what's going on. And she was like, if she really needs a place to stay, she can stay here. So, I mean, think about that, dealing with that at 15, 16 years old, all because your daughter likes someone who is a different skin color than
Yeah. That's just so much for a high schooler. I mean, you're just trying to get through athletics and school, and you're having to deal with all of this like real world, adult drama, just
her.
because you want to go out with this girl. Man, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely it was a really really heavy time, and I just couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that it was that extreme. And I worked hard from a young age to always be respectable, a respectable young man. I kept my grades up. I've had like academic scholarship offers. I have athletic scholarship offers. I'm going to college. I'm going to make something of myself, and I'm doing all of this to, at the end of the day, to just be looked at because of my, in a negative light because of my skin tone.
Yeah. So they found the phone. Or how
Yeah.
how did you guys bounce back from that, or what was your relationship after that?
So after they found the phone, eventually we had a sit down with her parents and my parents, and basically her parents, they they weren't disrespectful about it. They were smarter than that, but they were respectfully just asking me to just be stay away from her. And I mean, they didn't come off their stance.
What were they saying in this meeting between your parents and they're saying? Were they saying like, "Hey, we don't like interracial relationships," or it's just crazy to me that they could just suppress these tendencies like that, because
Mhm,
I vividly remember times during your relationship, not knowing all of this, going over to her house, in a
mhm,
group setting. So it just makes me feel weird looking back on that moment when, they were judging all of us who were there that were black. There weren't many of us, but,
mhm.
you, me, whoever else may have been there, just simply based on that fact.
Yeah, and one of her best friends was a black girl, and like you said, you used to stay at her house all the time, and they hung out all the time, and it's just it was mind blowing to me that you could have black people in your house, you can be friends with them, but hey, once you start to like one, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, in the meeting, I mean, they were just saying, we just would prefer for them to not date each other. Um,
Did they
I
give you
mean,
an
that's basically,
explanation?
no. I mean, what can you say to that? What kind of explanation could they give? It's like, well, we're racist. We don't want her with a black guy. I mean, just because that's just our preference. That's all they kept saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, did you respect their wishes, or did you guys continue in secrecy, or how did that work?
So for a little while, we did kind of break it off a little bit. Started to kind of date other people, but at the end of the day, whenever two people really care for each other, really like each other, uh, they're gonna find their way back to each other. So I mean, that lasted for maybe a couple of months, and then we started to date secretly again.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, did the parents find out about this time?
Eventually they did. But at this point, we were seniors in high school, getting ready to go off to college. And I still remember trying to make my college decision. And I was asking her, like, hey, where do you think you're going to go? Because if it's somewhere that I have an offer, then we can try to go to school together. And she told me like that her mom, like there was no way they were going to pay for her school if we were going to school together.
What?
Yeah, yeah. And so I remember, so it came down to UCA and Fort Smith, and was telling her like, hey, I think I'm gonna lean towards UCA, and she really wanted to go to UCA. Well, at that point, she was like, well, I'm gonna go to Arkansas State because my parents and this, that, and the other. And so I ended up choosing Fort Smith. And then once I chose Fort Smith, they told her that it was okay that she went to UCA.
Wow. See, I had no idea about that. I knew you ultimately chose UFIS, but I didn't know that that UCA was like a strong contender.
Yeah, yeah. I still vividly remember the night before I signed with Fort Smith. The UCA called me, and I remember looking at my phone. Like, how certain memories just kind of like just burn into your brain, and it's just
Yeah.
you will remember that forever. Like, I still remember picking up my phone, seeing the UCA coach's name answer, and thinking, am I going to answer this? Because I knew why he was calling, because like I said, I was signing the very next day, and I just put my phone down and let it go to voicemail, and I didn't check that voicemail until after I signed my letter of intent.
Wow. All right.
Yeah,
It could have all been different.
yeah, could have been very different.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, I know that we've had many experiences in college with interracial relationships and just hearing comments from women that aren't black talk about dating black guys and this, that, and the other. Do you think? I have my own opinions, but do you think that um, some people won't date outside of their race because of what their parents say, even if they're grown adults?
Not even just their parents. I think they're afraid of what society will think of them. I
Yeah.
think their friends, family members, other than their parents. I think all of those things play a factor into it. And I mean, I just think that I think it's evident whenever you're talking to people, especially. So my experiences are being talking to females, obviously. So
Yeah.
talking to females of the opposite race, talking to them about, hey, well, would you ever date a black guy? Like, no, but they will go, they'll hook up with black guys as long as nobody will find out about it.
Yeah.
But whenever you start talking about dating, like, no, 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 my parents would disown me. I'm just afraid of what people would think, and it's really crazy that there's a stigma around interracial dating, and especially whenever, like I said, the guy could be someone that could treat you better than someone of that's the same race as you. You'd rather that your friend or your child or your loved one be with someone that would treat them like crap, just but be happy for them then because they're the same race, but someone who could actually care for them and love them and provide for them. You don't want them to be with them because their skin color is different.
Yeah, I've actually got a quick story that my wife told me. She dated a black guy before that we got married, and as she was getting ready to go into this relationship, another white guy that she had been friends with came up to her and was like, "Hey, you really shouldn't do this. You're going to be perceived by the rest of the white guys as the girl that dates black guys." And when she was telling me that, I'm like, "What does that even mean?" You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, why is that such a bad thing? Why are people so close minded to like just shut off an entire race of people? Like it just blows my mind that um, people still think like that.
Hmm.
They still think that if you date outside your race, you're branded with a certain stamp.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a woman.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it works both ways too. And kind of hold us accountable too. Black people look at black men who date white women a certain way.
Oh
Like I said,
yeah,
there's a stamp put on both sides, and it really shouldn't be that way. Like you said, you're just someone who you connected with. It shouldn't matter what you guys look like,
yeah,
as long as you care for each other and it's a positive relationship. There's no reason for it.
yeah. So being someone that ultimately ended up with a white woman, you and me
Hmm.
both. What was that like for you to transition from your first experience dating outside your race to dating and ultimately marrying your wife? So, were you discouraged after your first girlfriend in high school didn't work out?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, to the point to where, like my wife now, she wanted me to meet her family, and I'm thinking, thinking back to my high school days, it's mentally that messes you up. You go through that, and someone's basically telling you that you can't date a person because you're lesser of a person than they are, to someone who's proud of you and like, hey, I want you to meet my family and this, that. And I just didn't know how to handle that. And so I remember how I kind of got introduced to her family and what kind of put me at ease. And it was, we went to dinner one night and she invited her sister. She has a younger sister. And from the second she walked in the restaurant and came to the table, she treated me like she had known me forever. I mean, we talked and laughed and had just a great dinner. And then I was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to meet your parents. If this is, I know the way you are. I care about you at this time. I really really liked her. Met her sister. She was great. I was like, this is the type of, these are the type of girls that your parents have raised. I'm comfortable now to go and meet them and go meet her parents. Same thing. I mean, they embraced me with open arms. They never made me uh, feel awkward at all. Uh, they've gone above and beyond and treated me. Treated me. I can't explain how well they treated me.
Yeah, so take me through what your parents' reaction was when it didn't work out in high
Hmm.
school. Now you're going back to Miss Mary and saying, "Hey, I want you to meet Allison." What
Yeah.
was that like?
So I had plenty of phone conversations with my mom before introducing her to Allison, just trying to put her mind at ease. Because think about it now, her baby is 4 hours away on the other side of the state, possibly entering into the same situation that he was just in, a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah,
And so as a parent, I'm sure she was, scared out of her mind, but trying to let me make the best decision possible. So we've had a lot of phone conversations, just, like, mom, I've met her family. This is a good girl. This is a good situation. I don't want to put myself in that situation that I was in, because I mean, that was just unhealthy. That wasn't healthy for anybody. It wasn't healthy for me, for her, for anybody involved in that situation. It wasn't. I was like, I don't want to put you through that. I definitely don't want to put myself through that again. So ultimately, she trusted me. She was like, okay, well, I want you guys to come here for a weekend so I can meet her. Came for a weekend. They met. They hit it off, and then that's how I got my mom's blessing.
okay. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And I still remember very vividly when I started dating Destiny. We started dating on my birthday 5 years ago. So as soon as we started dating, one of her family members called her. I'm talking about within the hour. Like, you put it on Facebook or whatever, so you're official or whatever. And her family member calls her crying hysterically, saying, "How could you do this to the family again?" And to give you a little backstory, so basically, her last relationship was interracial. It did not end well, and now basically they've stamped the entire race for what happened in this relationship. So they come from a place where there's pretty much no black people, and now I'm entering into like a relationship, not even a marriage, a relationship, and I feel like I'm already 2 or 3 steps behind because we don't have everyone's support.
Mhm.
And that was tough, man. That was a tough pill to swallow. That I didn't get a clean slate. I mean, that's all I really asked for. If I mess up and I do something, judge me based off of that. But don't,
Mhm.
if I would have been a white guy and her last boyfriend would have been white, I 100% believe that I would have gotten a clean slate.
Without a doubt.
Like,
Without a doubt. They wouldn't have thought twice about it.
yeah, and it just goes back to just open mindedness, man. You've got mixed children, I've got mixed children, and I just want them to judge people individually. Like, don't judge people based on external factors because you could miss out on a good opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you got your mom's blessing, um, and you're in UFIS. Did you guys face any racism or any hardships during your relationship, or was it just like a you knew it was going to work out?
It's one of those things is like, once when it's so cliche. When you know, man, whenever we, became official and were, in a relationship, everyone on both sides, her sorority sisters, my teammates, our friends, we had mutual friends too. Everyone supported it, loved us, embraced us. Um, no one in Fort Smith, gave us any type of trouble because of our relationship. And it was just the total opposite of what I experienced in high school.
Yeah. So fast forward a little bit, you guys are going to get married. What was it like for you blending the two families together?
It was very interesting. Obviously cultures are different. It's already interesting whenever you're blending two families of the same race, just because of personalities and other factors of how people were brought up. But whenever you're mixing two different cultures, I mean, there's bound to be some differences. So our families, they've all interacted very well with each other, but you could just tell that like our upbringings were different just by um, just small things. So I'm trying to think of an example. So Allison always talks about how loud it is that whenever our family gets together, because we're all talking and laughing and just having like a really good time. Whereas with her family, we're having a really good time, but it's a lot more of a relaxed setting. Does that make sense?
Come on, man. You already know I know.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that was pretty much the biggest difference in blending the two families. But other than that, everyone got along great.
Yeah. So, was there any times that Allison ever felt uncomfortable, or you've ever felt uncomfortable in family situations, just because, like I said, your in laws might have been okay with it. Was there anyone
Hmm.
else in the family that was like not on board with it?
So Allison's dad's family is from Iowa,
Okay.
and so it's a really really rural small town in Iowa. I mean, I don't even know if there's 1,000 people there. So with Thanksgiving, we had just had our first son. We had Will, and we were spending Thanksgiving with with her dad's family. And so I'm extremely nervous about going up there just because they've kind of given me the warning, like, hey, we love you, we know you're family. But her grandparents, obviously, we talk about how recently, you know segregation, occurred. They come from a completely different time where they didn't even grow up around black people. My father-in-law told me he had never met a black person until he went to college. And so
What?
he's like, yeah, yeah. And so going up there, they were like, if someone says something offensive, we apologize now, but we got you. We're gonna protect you, and just trying to make me feel more comfortable. So I'm completely nervous the whole drive up there, not knowing what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah.
And we get there, and I mean, it was the best time ever. I mean, we got up there, we drank, we played games, we celebrated Christmas while we were there, which is completely different when you celebrate Christmas with white people. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when they had like a Santa come in and
Oh
bring
wow.
us gifts. Yeah, yeah. It's like, so it was a completely new experience for me, and nothing happened. Like, they same thing. They embraced me, and it's never made me feel uncomfortable. If anything, they went out of their way to make me feel comfortable. So, but that's probably about the closest time to where I felt, you know, anything close to what I felt in high school in this relationship. It's from a family standpoint.
Yeah, man, and like I said, it's tough because, especially after going through a time like that you experienced in high school, and I've experienced similar situations like that in college and different things. Liking someone that it wasn't going to go any farther with because you're black and they're white, and they're not willing to take that next step. You get discouraged, and not just for like dating interracial. Like, you just get discouraged, period. Like, man, is there something wrong with me? Because
Mm-hmm.
like we talked about earlier, you get branded uh for now Tevin's the guy that dates white girls or whatever. Now the black girls and other people are looking at you a certain way, and then it's just like, man, you get down in spirits. So,
You know what I hate most about that label, coming like from a black guy's perspective,
what's that?
is that I've been in what I would say four relationships, right? So I was in one in junior high, like I said, that was about 2 years with a black girl. High school with the white girl. Then after, between that and my wife, dated a black girl. So I've never been like, oh, I only like white girl. For me, it's I like who I connect with. Like,
Yeah.
if yeah, if you were attractive and we vibed and we had a good connection, you're a good person. Yeah, I could see myself dating you. That type of stuff is more important to me than your skin color.
Yeah, and I just wish that more people gave people fair shots, because like we said, we have mixed kids that are going to be grown up in this world, and I don't want them to get written off by whoever because they're biracial. I just really hope between 2020 and whenever our kids get to dating age, that some things that have been rooted in this country's foundation have started to change. And yeah, it's just, I mean, yeah, it was just tough. It was just tough from a dating standpoint, for sure. But so you guys are married now. You have a child. How do you guys raise your children with these two blended cultures?
So it's funny. My kids, they don't call the black side of their family black. They don't call me black. They call us brown.
Okay.
And it's the funny, like, well, daddy's brown, and they call my mom G mama. G mama's brown, and they go down the list, and like, well, mommy's white, and like they just have no idea that that there's differences. They just see different shades of skin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we want to keep it that way as long as possible. Like, people are people. Like, yeah, their skin may be different, but at the end of the day, they're a person. And so we've just have, different conversations quite often about whenever it does come up about, them being biracial and how we're going to explain that to them. um, right now we just tell them, hey, you guys are the best of mommy and daddy, and just keep it there.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, you know
No, no. What were you saying?
because I mean, obviously my oldest son is 6. Like, he,
Yeah,
to me, this type of stuff it can be really heavy, and quite honestly, I don't know how to explain it to a 6-year-old or a 3-year-old. It's really hard, and we're dealing with it every day, just taking it day by day.
yeah. So we both have little girls that we value and treasure, and I still can't wait to meet baby Leah. So we've talked about race. We both agree that that's not a reason not to date someone. As a father, what are some legitimate reasons why you wouldn't let somebody date your daughter?
If you don't have any goals or aspirations, like, I want my daughter to be strong and to know what she wants out of life, and to never think that anyone could keep her from accomplishing something. And I want her to be with someone who supports her, who thinks the same way she does, who can provide for her, but also lift her up to know that, hey, I can provide for you, but you can provide for yourself too, and respect the fact that she can provide for herself. So
Yeah,
I want to raise my daughter to not have to need someone, but if she finds someone that she wants to build a life with, that they have the same ideals. White, black, green, yellow, I don't care. But those are the type of things that I want for my daughter.
yeah, 100%, man. It's just crazy that a predetermined factor about yourself is causing so much strife and chaos between people, for sure. So we've talked a little bit, or we've talked a lot about interracial dating. What was it like just having like white friends growing up?
It was pretty cool because I got to see a different type of environment. So like I talked about, like, with going to my family's house, or my extended family, or cousins, or black friends. It's pretty much very similar to my household that I grew up in. But going to a white household is completely different. Not better, not worse, just different. And so getting to experience those things, and experience of being around white people, and some of their ideologies, and how they think, and how their household operates, it was very interesting.
Yeah, so I know I've experienced some racism from white people in college, white males, uh, for sure. Did you ever experience any of that during high school or college?
So I think one of the first things that came to mind was, and you were involved in this situation too, I believe, is there was a situation with a girl at a college at ASU.
Yeah,
She was at a party, and she hooked up with a black guy. Somebody, I think they walked in on them. And
yeah,
the black guy ran or something. They didn't know who it was.
yeah,
Well, they made a general accusation that it was, this person that hung around this person. And I was in Fort Smith, Arkansas, getting ready to go to class, and the police knocked at my apartment door looking for me, and brought me in for questioning, asking where I was, the night before, because I fit the description of the person that she was with.
yeah. I mean, it
So
was
I'm like, well, what does that even mean?
yeah, all 4 hours away.
Yeah.
I'd say yeah, a pretty solid alibi. But yeah, it was a crazy situation because, basically, it was like a white fraternity house, and this girl had made the story up. Basically, it came out to be, it wasn't true. She
Mhm.
blamed it on a black person. Some of the only black people they knew were um, me, my brother, people that we hung around. Um, and yeah, they legitimately they questioned you. They came to my parents' house and took a like told me I had to come into the A State Police to give a DNA sample, which I did. But I mean, looking back on that now, I'm just like, they could have tried to set me up for something,
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it worked out. Like I knew that I wasn't there, and it was just looking back on that situation now and how crazy it was, and looking how the world is today. It doesn't even like it's crazy to me that they would just one come to Fort Smith. I think they went to Conway as well, and then they approached three or four of us here in Jonesboro, all based on a you know she said statement.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe that. Couldn't believe it. So,
Yeah, it was crazy. I think I've had a few other instances. Some in sports. You get called the N word in sports. Pickup
oh,
basketball at
that
that. You know what I mean? So it's
that
just
has happened. That's happened countless times. Getting called the N word by student sections or by someone you're playing against. I can't count how many times that's happened. I remember in high school playing against Greene County Tech and walking by their student section and they're yelling out the N word. I'm like, this is crazy. And we were friends with the guys on the other team.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was insane.
Well, I mean, it's just crazy because even now to this day, if people say certain things, I think racism. If people
Hmm.
say Kappa Alpha fraternity, I think racist. You know what I'm saying? If people
Hmm.
say Greene County Tech, I think all white. Probably have been around black people. If they say Paragould in general, that's the kind of vibe that I think. I met a guy the other day, and he was like, "I went to Greene County Tech." And I was just thinking to myself, oh, okay. It's just
Hmm.
crazy how, like, your mind goes to the certain memories associated with that place or whatever. And they're usually not favorable to black people.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I know. This is kind of this is off topic a little bit, but I had Harrison as a part of my sales territory with my company, and I still remember having to explain to Allison why I was nervous about having to go to Harrison. And so, Harrison is the home of the KKK,
Yeah.
and they're known for being, notoriously known for being a racist town. And I was going to have to go there and call on doctors and clinics in Harrison. And
By
one of the first
yourself.
calls, yeah, by myself. And so I have my concealed carry. So I told her, I was like, I'm going to have my concealed on me. I'll check in with you if you don't hear from me, for, a certain period of time, then, something's wrong. But like the first time I had to go, man, I was a nervous wreck. And one of the first calls I had was a guy who he's a doctor. He played basketball at Harding in Cersei. So we hit it off. We knew, we both know the Harding coach. We both knew some mutual people through the basketball world. And he looked at me after about 15 minutes. He's like, "Were you nervous having to come here?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he started laughing. He was like, it's crazy that's even a thought. It's 29. It was 2019 at the time. He's like, it's 2019, and you're feeling uncomfortable to come to our town. He's like, I hate that. He's like, I personally am trying to do something about it. He was like, but all I can do is, he asked if I was staying overnight, which I wasn't. He's like, if you ever do, he gave me the hotel to stay at. He gave me different restaurants to go to that were safe, and I was like,
That's
this
crazy.
is crazy. Yeah, yeah. And like, even to this day, if I have to go up there for work, like, I won't eat. I'll either take my lunch or I'll get something from a gas station, but I won't go through like a drive through or stop at a sit down restaurant or anything like that, just because, I mean, I want to protect myself and I don't know what could happen.
Yeah. I mean, going through any of these little small towns, because Destiny has family in Harrison. And we went to visit them sometime. And like I said, I don't want to call anyone out by names, but they were literally prepping me for meeting this one guy in the family, and basically saying that he's racist, and
Hmm.
that he probably won't shake your hand, and that was like a big pill to swallow. I'm like, so why are we going here? You know,
Right.
if I got to feel uncomfortable and on edge this entire time, why are we going there? So when you said Harrison, I was like, "Yep, that's
Yeah.
not a place that I would definitely go by myself." And like you said, it's just kind of crazy. I'll tell you another thing. I'm in Jonesboro. You know, we grew up there. I'm afraid to go jogging now. I was
Mhm.
telling Destiny that I've been wanting to get back into like doing some sprint work, and I was like,
Mhm.
well, I said we got a really pretty good neighborhood. I could just do some sprints, you know, up and down like the blacktop in the cul-de-sac in the neighborhood. And then I started
Mhm.
thinking, I'm just like, nah. I mean, you know, maybe I could. You know, the only reason I was going to do it in the neighborhood was because they closed the old ASU track, and that's where I
Mhm.
used to go. And then, you know, I kind of just talked myself out of doing it. I'm like, no, I don't want someone. I don't want it to look suspicious. I'm running super fast in the neighborhood. Someone, could, you know, like I just don't want
Yeah.
that to happen. So it's just crazy. Some of the things that you have to think about being a black person, definitely being a black male, especially with all the stereotypes are just around that. Um, that you have to really think before you move in
Yeah.
2020.
Yep. Yep. Can't even go exercising without thinking twice.
Yeah.
It's really sad. And like I started running about a month ago around my neighborhood. I usually get up really early in the morning and I'll go running. And then, after this situation in Georgia, I'm started to think twice about it. And now every time I see a car driving up, I'm kind of keeping my eye on them. I'm on high alert. And the fact that I can't be comfortable in my own neighborhood jogging is, I mean, it speaks volumes about where we're at as a country.
Yeah, man, it really does. And uh man, like I said, I've been in a place of just kind of borderline depression, just thinking about the state of our country, man. Because before this happened, everyone was just kind of, you know, living their lives thinking like everything was okay on this front, you know, just get through the coronavirus and then things will go back to normal. But when you think about what has transpired since then, there's no going back to normal in any sense. There's no going back to normal as far as like eating at restaurants. There's no going back to normal as far as like race is concerned. I've heard and seen so many different things from people that I just look at I'm starting to look at people differently, and I just know that I don't need to do that, especially, you know, from like a biblical standpoint. Um, it's just I've just been at war with it, man. Like
Hmm.
I've been at war with, you know, the teachings of God and being a black man. And
Yeah.
how I need to move to be able to be there for when my kids grow up, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The only thing, I mean, it's hard, but I mean, just try to educate as many. Anytime you see someone, speaking something ignorant, just try to educate them. And if they're not willing to listen, then at least you've tried.
Yeah.
You know, and you never know. They may be stubborn, but something you say to them might stick with them. Like you just never know.
Yeah. So
But we got to try.
yeah, definitely got to try. Speaking of educating people, what are some phrases that you've heard or seen from white people that may come off kind of offensive that they wouldn't really think about?
Other other than all lives matter.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the big one.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and if someone hasn't had it explained to them why that's offensive. Okay, I saw someone. I can't take credit for this. I saw it on social media. It's like if you were having a breast cancer awareness uh, celebration or event, and someone showed up disrupting it, saying lung cancer matters, or uh, any other type of cancer matters. It's like, yeah, it does, but that's not what this is for. This is for to bring awareness to breast cancers. Not saying that these other cancers don't matter, because they do, but the event is for breast cancer, and it's a direct correlation to this. We're saying Black Lives Matter because Black lives are the ones at the most risk right now.
Yeah, those are
We
the
need to bring awareness to the injustices that are going on across the country. white people can feel comfortable, they can feel safe. Black people, like I said, we just had a discussion about being uncomfortable jogging around our neighborhood.
Yeah,
So
that's definitely a problem. One thing that bothers me is when they say black people are racist too, and this is why. You can't truly be racist. You can be prejudiced, but you can't truly be racist if you like. We can't really be racist against white people if they're not being oppressed. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, yeah,
they're not being like we don't have any power over them. It's not like we're making
right,
decisions that are like constantly dictating their lives on a global scale. Um, my
yeah,
pastor said something about that, and that really stuck. That's really stuck with me. Um, that yeah, you know, you can feel some type of way about somebody, but if you're the minority, and you know you're not in a position of power, how can you bring about change? So when the people are in power are like trying to say something about what about white lives, that kind of diverts the attention of what we're really talking about anyway. You know,
right,
it takes the focus off of Black Lives Matter, and now you're trying to make it about you and trying to snuff out the fact that there are injustices and biases and things that play roles in the lives of black people every day.
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, man, I just want to continue to bring awareness and hopefully bring change to the society that we live in, man, because like the whole world is hurting. The black community is hurting, which is causing, feelings stirring up in everybody. And I just encourage people to continue to educate themselves, ask questions. If you're afraid to say something offensive, well, I mean, if you're going to say it, and then I can tell you if it's offensive or not. Hey, you probably shouldn't say that. Um,
That's a great point.
yeah,
That's a very great point. And even like the like I brought up earlier, the white people that have reached out, like I said, I appreciate them reaching out. But if you're going to reach out and ask what you can do to help move this conversation along or help push us toward our goal of of everyone being seen equally. Like, don't just reach out and tell me, "Hey, man, I care about you." I would hope so. I've known you. I've known you for years. Like,
yeah,
I hope you would. But let's ask. If you don't know what you can do or what you can contribute, ask.
yeah,
And I'm sure any black person will be more than happy to have that conversation with you.
yeah. But Jay, I appreciate you sitting down with me, man. It's always good to catch up with you. This is going to be coming out on Thursday. I just encourage everyone just to listen to the words that we're saying. I've got love for everybody. I just want everyone to have love for the black community and to be educated on what we go through on a daily basis. I hope this opened a lot of people's minds to, maybe you won't write off someone that tries to, ask you on a date because of their skin color. Maybe you think twice about feeling uncomfortable around a black person. We're people too. I've heard so many things from people of their encounters or their stereotypes about black people, and I just want to bust those myths and just create awareness, man. It, there's just so much information out there that I think people can benefit from, and yeah, do you have any closing words, Jay?
No, like I said, let's just keep the conversation going. If you're black or if you're white, let's keep it going. Let's try to open as many minds as possible, like you said. And the only way to do that is to talk to one another.
Yeah, man. So this has been another episode of The Clever Angle, Voicing the Silence. We'll be back next week, and we're going to be catching up someone from the biracial perspective and getting their perspective of what it's like being in the middle of two races. I hope you guys have a blessed day, and peace.